In this video, I want to prove to you why purchasing and doing Airbnb is absolutely the best strategy out there. And I know what you might be thinking, Jorge, what if I'm not in a position to put that down payment or the closing costs that are required? I'm going to provide you with many solutions today where you could do this with very little or none of your money. Now, let's jump right in. There are 5 main benefits, first of all, when it goes into the real estate purchasing strategy. 5 main benefits. Number 1 is, of course, the cash flow. This is the monthly profit after all expenses. And yes, you get cash flow with all 3 strategies, right? Also with subleasing and also with co-hosting, and of course with purchasing. The next benefit is appreciation. You only get this benefit with purchasing. I'll give you a great example. Back in 2019, 5 years ago, I began subleasing multiple properties, but I'm going to give you one specific example. At the time that I started renting and doing the arbitrage with this property, it was worth around $400,000. 5 years later, this property is now worth $750,000. I got no appreciation, meaning that value going from a market value of 400 to 750, I didn't get any of that equity. Only the owner did. It was strictly a cash flow play for me. So there's 2 types of appreciation. You have natural market appreciation, which is exactly what happened with this property. And then you have something called forced appreciation. If I go and buy a property that is completely outdated, it needs a full-on remodel, and I buy it at a discount, I put this much in renovations, but now it's worth this much, right? I'm going to end up with some equity. I'm going to force the value up. That is the second type of appreciation, which is called, again, forced appreciation. And then you have something called depreciation, which you also only get when you own the real estate. This, my friends, I want to spend a little more time here. Typically, there is a depreciation schedule. And before I go into that, let me break down what depreciation is. So with depreciation, you got to break it down into 2 categories, right? So you have the land value and the building value. You need to identify how much is the value of each one because you can only depreciate the building value. You see, the IRS recognizes that over time, you're going to need to replace the roof, the plumbing, the electrical. Maybe there's a foundation issue, whatever it is. Therefore, there is a schedule on which they allow you to depreciate everything in the property. And it is a 27 and a half years. Man, that's a long time. I'm 36. Can you imagine waiting 27 and a half years? Well, that's what most people do when they have long-term rentals. Now, the main benefits of owning real estate, doing short-term rentals, is there is something called cost segregation and bonus depreciation, code section 179 of the IRS. And this incredible tax loophole allows you to accelerate that depreciation schedule. You no longer have to wait 27 and a half years. You can depreciate most of it in the first year. Now, back in 2022, the depreciation benefit was 100%. 2023, it went to 80%. 2024, it's 60%, and it's supposed to phase out. However, I and many real estate experts believe that they will bring that back to 100%. It is an incredible tax strategy that allows you to lower or completely eliminate your federal tax return because of those paper losses, as we call them, or phantom losses. On paper, they come across as losses because you're accelerating all that depreciation in the first year. Benefit is that you could use that to offset the profits from other businesses. You see, when you're doing short-term rentals, they are categorized as active income, whereas long-term rentals are categorized as passive income. So because short-term rentals are categorized as active income, you could use active income against other active losses and profits. And if that sounds a little complicated, all you need to understand is that owning real estate and doing short-term rentals, and yes, there's a couple things, right? Like you have to rent it for at least 15 days out of the year. Your average stays have to be 7 days or less, right? There's a couple nuances there, but just big picture here, I want you to understand that owning real estate and doing short-term rentals allows you to eliminate or drastically lower your federal tax return. Now, again, I'm not a financial advisor or a CPA, so make sure you consult with a professional, but I just wanted to give you a high-level overview of how my life has been the last couple of years on legally paying 0 taxes and even getting a refund on my federal tax return. So we just covered cash flow, then appreciation, depreciation, and now the 4th benefit of owning real estate is mortgage paydown, right? That sublease that I've had since, or again, I've had many subleases, but that one in particular since 2019, I still have it today. My tenants, my Airbnb guests have been paying down that mortgage for for the owner. So as my tenants, the Airbnb guests, are paying down the mortgage because they're the ones who are paying to stay there. They're paying down the mortgage while it's only going up in value over time, right? Only creating a larger equity for the owner and increasing their net worth. So mortgage pay down is the fourth benefit. The fifth benefit is taxes. Yes, you get a lot of tax benefits when you are a business owner of any business, and you get a whole other set of additional tax benefits and deductions and write-offs when you are in real estate as an investor and you're doing short-term rentals. And so again, cash flow, appreciation, depreciation, mortgage pay down, and taxes. If your goal is to not only create cash flow, but you also want to build long-term wealth, owning real estate is the way. I am a big believer in subleasing and co-hosting. Subleasing allowed my wife to quit her 9-to-5. Co-hosting has brought us additional cash flow, right? I break down those two strategies in other videos in depth. But my point is, and I'm a big believer in do what you can with what you have where you are. So if you're not in a position to go and buy real estate, that's totally understandable. But whenever you get to be in a position to buy real estate, owning is the way. It's how you build long-term wealth. You don't want to be the subleasing or co-hosting guy for 10, 15, 20 years, unless you also start buying real estate. Then you can be the guy or gal who does it all, building the wealth, who's getting all the tax advantages, taking advantage of the loopholes and the benefits out there that the IRS has created, in addition to, of course, the cash flow benefits from subleasing and co-hosting. But owning is the way, my friends. And this benefit I talked about, cost segregation, bonus depreciation, it only comes with owning. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of the video that I would give you some tips on how you could get started with purchasing if you have little or none of your capital. So there are programs out there. There's mainly two types of programs when it comes to lending. You have owner-occupied financing and investment loans. Owner-occupied means that you're going to live there. That's less risky to the bank. You get better interest rates and lower down payments. Whenever you go into the investment side, they require higher down payments and you're going to have a higher interest rate, which means a higher mortgage payment because it's more risky to the bank. So one of the strategies that I've helped hundreds and hundreds of my students execute is where they buy a single family residence, meaning one house on one lot with as many bedrooms, bathrooms, and square footage as possible so that they can do what's called a junior ADU. That's where you take the existing home, right? Imagine this is a home right here, right? It's one big box or whatever, rectangle. And imagine this is like 2,000 square feet. So you take a third of it, you got about 700 square feet or so, 700 square feet, and you wall it off, you add a kitchenette, and now this is its own unit. And it's basically a duplex side by side. Yes, there's a wall that's separating them, but you can't go into each other's unit. So you could live on one side, you could Airbnb this other portion, and now you're utilizing leverage. Say your mortgage payment is $5,000, but you're getting $4,000 from the Airbnb. Now you're only paying $1,000 out of pocket. In many cases, you could be completely covering the mortgage. And in the best case, not only are you completely covering the mortgage, you're also generating cash flow. Now, the benefit of this strategy is that you are living in the property. So you could take advantage of going in there with 3.5% down an FHA loan or 5% down with a conventional loan. Because you're living there, you can take advantage of owner-occupied financing. But you could also rent out a portion. The rule is you have to live there for at least a year. Then you can rent out everything right off the bat. So that's one way that you can make it work. And again, I do have videos where I break this down more in depth, but I just wanted to give you a high level overview. The other strategy is if you were to partner with someone 50-50 and they brought the money and you understood this strategy enough where you could execute it, but you didn't have to bring any of the money. So they bring the money and you do the work. That's another way that you could do it. You could also get a business loan. You can get a personal loan, or if you already own an existing home, you can get a home equity line of credit or a HE loan. That's become popular recently. One of my mentors said, Jorge, there's always money in the room. There's so many ways. Like I have this business credit card. I got $50,000 at 0% for 12 months. There are so many ways that you guys can get into the business purchasing, and you got to just find a way to get the capital. It's like Robert Kiyosaki once said, don't say, I can't afford it. Say, how can I afford it? Guys, make sure to like this video. Make sure to subscribe, turn on the notification bell. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments down below. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one.